I know you're gonna dig this. Trey Holland back with you, Organic 1112. Today I'm gonna make for you one of the new recipes that I tried to do once. But this is a version of, one of the healthiest versions of hummus I've ever seen, and it is raw. Okay, it's raw lentil sprout hummus with butternut squash, with raw butternut squash. I'm actually going to make a bolognese because once I get the lentils done, I'm going to take some of, set it aside, thin it out a little bit, and pour it over or spoon it over some spiralized zucchini, some zucchini pasta. So it's going to be a full dish, and you're going to like this. Okay, I just realized that, I'm showing these little sprouts. These took about 4 days. I probably will do a video to show how to do it. Lentil sprouts are some of the easiest sprouts to get started with. I've done broccoli sprouts, I've done alfalfa sprouts, and I've done a couple other types of bean sprouts, some mung bean sprouts, and I've actually done some sprouted quinoa and the millet didn't do too well. But anyway, these were just French green littles, and this is a half-gallon jar or 2 quarts. And what I did is I took exactly one cup of the dried lentils, and I soaked them overnight, and then you just rinse them every 8 or 12 hours, just so you rinse them twice in a 24-hour period. Now, if it's in a real hot environment, you'd probably want to go with the 3 times a day minimum. But it usually takes from 3 to 4 days. These completely fill the jar. Now what I've done is I've actually packed, that's a quart measuring cup, and I've got that packed it down with the food, and it's actually above quart. So it's actually take a quart measuring cup and fill it up. That's what I'm starting with. I'm gonna put that in the food processor. And then I'll show you what I'm gonna do with the butternut squash. Okay, so I'm gonna just put these in here. Get some of them out of the top, because if I try to pour, I just want to get a little of these out of here. So now that's about actually a quart of them right there. It's amazing to me that a cup of lentils will yield a half gallon. So what is that? So that's 4 quarts, 8. That's 8 cups. So 1 cup gets you 8 cups of lentil sprouts. 1 cup of dry lentils will yield approximately 8 cups of sprouts. That's pretty good. And these are alive, loaded with nutrition. I might have to adjust my recipe, but no, that's just about right. So that's good. So that filled the thing up. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put, it's gonna be mostly lentil sprouts. And I'm gonna put about 1/8 of a red onion in there, but I'm gonna dice that finely so it'll blend up easier. So about 1/8 of a red onion, see? So about 1/8 of this onion, and I'm gonna dice it real fine, then I'm gonna put that in there. And then what I'm gonna do with the butternut squash, you'll see in a second. I think that's enough room for the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so you can see that's what I've got left. So if you were to, and that's maybe a little bit shy of half of them, but if you space this out really good, you can make, so 1 cup of dry lentils, you can make 2 nice sized portions of hummus. Okay, just want to show you that. I'm going to put these back in the fridge, and they'll keep for probably 3 to 5 days at max, but I'll use them up before then. These are very versatile. You can use them in wraps. Matter of fact, besides the zucchini pasta, you can use the hummus you can use the hummus in wraps, and sort of like on one of those coconut raw wraps. Put a layer of hummus down. Put maybe a couple avocados. Well, this is going to have some nut butter in it, and then you're maybe some herbs like a little cilantro, a little bit of tomatoes, maybe a little bit of arugula, and then maybe a little, you can make it, whip up a quick sauce, a vinegar-based sauce or whatever, drizzle that on there, wrap that up. That's a nice wrap, raw too. Okay, so these are back in the fridge for a later day. Okay, so I'm gonna show you about what size onion. That's about an average, nice size red onion. Now, I'm not gonna go into this, but garlic would be typical authentic ingredient, but I am purposefully replacing the garlic with red onion. And I could go all into that, but there is, as far as Ayurveda, there is a prana or energy related to every type of food. And the negative prana foods means that when you ingest them, they take away from your body's energy. So you want to minimize eating negative prana foods because they're so stimulating and stressful to the nervous system. So basically, garlic is at the top of the list of the negative prana foods because it's so stressful to the system. It does have its purpose, but it should be used as a medicine short-term only. Because it has such a powerful flavor profile, it's been the use of it has been perverted. It's just it's in about all savory processed foods to some extent. And you know, me being a raw foodist, I'm almost 4 years mostly raw. I can smell people. They don't even have to come close to me, and I can smell the garlic on them, and it doesn't smell too good. So the red onions don't have that compound in there. The onions are still considered negative prana, but they're not as bad. So I would rather use onions on a regular basis. They're still not optimal, but they will, and I'm not going to be using a lot for this quantity. So I'm going to be using about a size like that. I'll taste the final product. I might add a little more, but that's about 1/8 of, exactly about 1/8 of this onion. So it's half of a quarter. So I'll reserve this, but I might add a little more. So that's the onion quantity. So let's dice that up. Okay, basically this wedge, I'm sort of going to cut it, or, you know, with the grain, 3 or 4 slices into little slivers like that. And now I'm going to cut across the grain. And I don't have to get them too fine. I want to get them a little bit fine so they'll blend easier. But the processor will chop them up a little more. And I think I am just going to add a little bit more, a sliver more. All right, so that, you know, just about like that. All right, so those are in. This is the first ingredient I'm adding after the sprouts. So I'm just going to add just a little tiny bit more. I'm basing this on the first time I tried this, and I used about that amount. It was a little too much, but I didn't have as many sprouts. So this is the way more. This is probably about twice the sprouts I used. Well, not quite twice, but I'm using more sprouts this time than last. I'm just going to cut off just another little tiny sliver. I've heard that when you cut an onion, it's good to use it up as fast as you can, that they don't, something about they absorb a lot. But I am going to just put that in a container, put it in the refrigerator for now. So sorry about the noise here. So I'm just going to put it in this container and go ahead and put it in the fridge. All right, so I'm going to just take another little. This is about like a 1/32 of the 1/32 of the onion. So I think based on the way the first batch I did tasted, I think this is going to be just about right for that amount of sprouts. Okay, so now we got our onion. Let me take these peels off of there. All right, so that'll round out the onion. All right, so now I'm going to add a few ribbons, or these are often called raw Alfredo noodles. I do have a video where I made fettuccine alfredo with the butternut squash. So basically what I'm gonna do is just peel the skin off, and then get down to the orange. Now the skin is edible on a butternut squash if you wash it real good, but who knows what they do. They probably dip these things in wax. So in my opinion, unless you're growing it yourself, unless you can wash it real good with some baking soda and vinegar, I would always peel it. So I'll be able to use this squash for ribbons for a while. I can put it back in the refrigerator, but right now I'm just going to make a few ribbons, and these ribbons will blend up a lot nicer in the food processor than chunks will. I mean, because those lentils are soft. The onions aren't too hard, but this butternut squash is hard, so you want everything to blend uniformly. That's why I'm making these real thin little strips. Watch the butternut squash Alfredo. That stuff was rocking. All right, so I want to get about a cup of these. Let's see. Let me peel off a little more here. Take these peels out. Okay, so that's what that's what it looks like, and I'm just peeling these off of there. So about just got enough. So this looks like probably about, I'm not even using a fourth of the butternut squash here. I'm probably using an eighth at the most. Now what you could do here is you can flash steam this. Of course it wouldn't be raw, but you could flash steam it for 3 minutes and then put it in there if you rip for the cooked. You're not going to be able to tell this is raw because it's so thin and it's going to blend up so nicely. And that's one of the things you can hide something as nutrient dense as this raw squash right in there by cutting it up thin, because it's going to blend in so good. Gosh, this is going to be good. All right, so that's enough. So I've got about a cup. I'm gonna set this aside. I've got about, well, there's the butternut squash, but I've got about a cup of these strips. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these strips right in here, right on top. And those lentil spaces, there's a lot of space in between each lentil sprout. So this looks like it's going to be too full, but it's going to blend. I'll probably have to open it up a couple of times, but and press everything back down. But all right, so now we got our lentil sprouts, and we got our red onion, and we got our ribboned noodles, about a cup of butternut squash ribboned. All right, so now that's all the hard stuff. So now we're getting into the seasonings and the one last ingredient. I do have some tahini here. I don't necessarily recommend this brand, but it was organic and it was the best they had at the store I was at, and it has no added sugar or salt. Unsweetened and salt free. Organic. I've already stirred it up. It's a brand new jar, and I just had it in the refrigerator to chill, so it is starting to thicken up a little bit. So now you're gonna be able to catch me on a technicality here. I have bought raw hummus, raw tahini before. Tahini, for those of you that don't know, all it is ground up sesame seeds. It's a nut butter made strictly from ground up sesame seeds. Very high in calcium, excellent source of calcium. More calcium than just about anything. It's the top source. But this particular brand says that they lightly roast them and then they grind them. So technically it's not raw, but if I could have found the raw, I would have got the raw and I'd be using the raw. And I don't have any sesame seeds or a high speed enough blender to make my own tahini, which one day I will. But so that's the only technicality you can say on the raw, but just make believe this is raw tahini, okay? All right, so let's add that. So I'm gonna estimate this by the flavor profile I did it the first time. I'm just gonna use a regular tablespoon, and I'm gonna, let's see, count. These are all heaping now. I've already stirred this up real good. All right, so let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's go with 4. So 4 heaping tablespoons of tahini. Okay. This stuff's good. Okay. All right, now, refrigerator. Okay, so now I'm going to, this is the biggest lemon that I got. I'm going to juice that real quick. Can you, I don't know if you can, put this over here. So I'll juice this real quick. So it's going to have the juice of 1 whole lemon. This is nice here, this juicer, especially if you're doing a lot. Now, I think I posted on Facebook on my page, one of my pages that, well, oops, I need to collect some of this. I made a quart of lemon juice and drank it. I've done that twice, and that is quite the experience. That'll turn you alkaline. A quart of lemon juice, fresh squeeze. So you just spin this around here, and you can get it at different angles. Okay. Missed out on a little bit of lemon juice when it started, but that thing, it sort of gets it good. I mean, there isn't hardly any juice left in that. All right, so that's. And all right, so I'm using the juice of 1 lemon. That's a traditional ingredient. The tahini's a traditional ingredient. And typically, instead of the lentil sprouts, they would use chickpeas, cooked chickpeas. Now, I have seen in a cafe, a raw food cafe, where they made some hummus with sprouted chickpeas. I actually tasted it. It comes nowhere near as good as this lentil sprout right here. This is the best hummus I've ever tasted. All right, so we got our cup of lemon juice. Now this is going to be another liquid ingredient, the apple cider vinegar. And we've got some liquid Soleil salt. Here's my new batch of Soleil salt. Look at the big rocks in that. So this is like, I don't know how, this is like probably over a half gallon. This is like a big, long pasta jar. But I got some big rocks up in there. And so this is, the water in here is 26% salt. So whatever you use, if you have a tablespoon of the liquid, it's like a 1/4 tablespoon of salt. If you had a teaspoon of this liquid, it would be the same amount of salt as a 1/4 teaspoon. So it's a 1/4 ratio. Right, so now we've got our liquids. But before I put the liquids in, I'm going to put the spices. I got some high strength cayenne. I'm only going to go with 1/2 teaspoon of that, and exactly no more than half a teaspoon. All right, so that's my cayenne. That's my heat source. I could put a little black pepper. Why don't we do that? So I'm just adding a little bit of black pepper, freshly ground. All right, so next is paprika. This I'm going to put a tablespoon. All right, so a level tablespoon of the paprika. Right, and next, I'm cumin. I'm going to put a teaspoon of the cumin. So this is going to be sort of like it's going to have a Mexican type flair to it. All right, so I got the cumin in there. Do I have any coriander? I have some unground. I don't know if I have any ground. No, I'm out of it. I don't want to grind any now. That's no big deal. I'm going to add, I don't really want to turn it yellow, but I do want to add just a half teaspoon of the ground turmeric. All right, so that rounds out the powdered with spices. Now let's hit it with some herbs. Now what I've got here is a mix of a little bit of oregano, a little bit of dill. No, not dill, I'm sorry. Oregano, rosemary fresh that I made. This from my plant. And there's some chives in here, a few chives. But it's mostly oregano and rosemary. All right, so I'm going to put, so this is all the dry spices. So I'm going to put it in my hand to make sure it's broken up good. It's always good to do with dry spices because sometimes it can have some stem in there if you buy it in bulk. That feels good. Well, you can smell that. So that's 1 teaspoon. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of the dry herbs. Just making sure that there's no harsh stems or anything like that, because those might bypass the blades. You wouldn't want to bite down or eat a stem. Right, so that's some, what is this? This is not astragalus root powder. Right, and here is some fenugreek. I'll throw a little bit of fenugreek powder in there. I made these myself. It's not really a fine powder. So that's about 1/4 teaspoon of fenugreek. Now it is. Now it's about 1/4 teaspoon of fenugreek. Okay. All right, so that's a good profile mix. And what else? I have coriander, but I'm not going to grind this right now. I don't think we need it with all the rest of the stuff. I think we are ready. So that's what it's looking like. It's pretty nice. This will settle down. It'll probably end up being about that much in there. All right, so I think that's it for the dry ingredients. Let me just go over one last dry ingredient. I almost forgot. And this you want to think of as actually a little bit of think of when you use this and put it in a recipe. Take back some of the salt you'd ordinarily use without it. These are dulse flakes. They're sort of like purplish burgundy in color. These are really amazing. Very nice source of iodine. These are organic from the Maine coast. These are awesome. I like the whole dulse better, but it's hard to find that. You mostly find the flakes. All right, so now this is going to be part of my salt, and I'm going to add a little of this, which is the sole salt. So this is going to give it a good mineral profile. This is unpolluted. This is ancient salt, rehydrated, ancient salt rocks rehydrated with some of the best spring water in the world, I think. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of the dulse, just like that. So 1 tablespoon going in. You could probably treat that about like a teaspoon of salt. All right, so got that, and now you definitely don't want to put too much. You can always add a little bit. I'm going to put, all right, so now we're ready for our wet ingredients. I'm going to put a tablespoon of the sole salt here, just the liquid, which is actually only 1/4 tablespoon of salt. Okay, because that's a lot. Right? So that should be all the salt we need. This is going to have a little bit of salinity to it. So with the lemon juice, it'll all acid help that salt out. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar. Okay, and the last ingredient is juice of 1 lemon. Well, juice of 4/5 of a lemon. Okay, I think we're in good shape right now. If it's too thick, you can always add a little cold water. So now I think we're ready to blend. Now once I put it on the blender, I'll probably have to stop, press it down with the scraper, maybe 2 or 3 times. So I'll spare you that. And I will get back with you once we get it done. Okay, got my little scraper here. We are ready to rock and roll. Got my lid. I'm gonna start off slow on this. I gotta get a Cuisinart. I'm gonna stop and press it back down. It's looking good. You get the idea. I'm just doing that, working it, so I'll get back with you. I might try this. Add a little water. Typically when you make hummus, you're using the canned beans and it has a lot of liquid, or if you make the beans. So I'm sort of pretending I'm adding the liquid that are with those beans ordinarily. This is just too thick. That should be just about right. We'll check that. Okay, it is looking good. I think it's done. Alright, so I'll put this in a bowl to show you. But yeah, I think it's done. Everything's ground up real good. It's a really good consistency. Maybe not as smooth as some of you may like it, but this looks good. You talk about something that would go good in a wrap. This would make the best hummus wrap in the world. I mean, you can use it for a lot of different things, and I'll show you what I'm going to use it for. All right, the salt is like perfect in here. I just tasted it. Amazing. It's better than the first time I made it, for sure. Of course, I was able to fine tune it. I knew what I was working with. So I need a big, huge island about the size of this kitchen. All right, so I'm going to grab a bowl here, and we're going to just bowl it all up in a big bowl. This bowl might be too big, but I'm going to roll with this big bowl. Okay. So I just take the blade out. It might be a different procedure for a different food processor. This is just an attachment for the Ninja. It's an older model. Let's see. Does a good job though. So we'll just scrape that off of there. And make sure that's good. Sorry for the noise. Okay. All right, so now let's see what we got. All right, so let's see what we got. All right, so I'm just going to scoop this out into there. It made a good portion. This is dense, living food right here. Like I say, the only thing that's not raw, well, the turmeric may have been heated to dry it out, but the rest of the spices are sun-dried. But the only ingredient that's not technically raw is the hummus, the tahini, which I would have got raw if I could have found it. I live in the fried food capital region of the world, and it's hard to find. This is probably one of the hardest places in the United States to find healthy foods. We had a Whole Foods that came here. They were here a year and then they were gone, but I think it was part of the sell-off thing for Amazon buying them out. So that made a pretty good bit. Take a look at that. This is a big bowl, and it made a pretty good bit of it. And it is really. I'm sure if you really try this, you can you're open to customize it your own ways. It is awesome. I know this. It's better than awesome. Awesome is like an overused word. This is spectacular and outstanding. Sort of what gave me the idea for this is I was looking at raw food recipes, and one of the things that I kind of missed the most after I went raw was hummus, because I used to make it myself a lot. And I did, like I said earlier, I did try that garbanzo bean. It just didn't taste right. I didn't, the flavor of the sprouted garbanzo beans, it made it not taste too good. But I didn't even think about the possibility of using lentil sprouts, because in my mind they were something, those are so small, those wouldn't work, but they work perfect. But I happened to stumble across a recipe while I was looking on Facebook at some raw food sites, and I saw this. This is something that they serve at one of the yoga retreats in Bali. It was a recipe on their page, but the link from that was from Facebook. I clicked the link, it took me to a yoga retreat site, and it was showing some of the things that they have or they serve for food. I was like, dang, this must be good. I took a look at it, didn't write it down, but I remembered it good enough, so I tried it. Like I say, this is the second time. Off the charts good. Woohoo! Okay. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I've got a small zucchini here, and I just rinsed that off, and I'm going to spiralize it real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to serve some of that. I decided that I did not want to thin it out. Ordinarily, if you were going to serve that hummus would be a little too thick to pour over the noodles, but I don't care. I'm going to do it. There's no need for me to mess up a smoothie container or anything, because it don't matter to me if it's thin or not. It's so good. So basically, I'm just making some spirals. Just one zucchini. So my meal is going to consist of the zucchini and just some of the hummus on top. I'll probably put a little bit of black pepper just to top it off. The heat, you couldn't hardly notice the cayenne. Very subtle, did that perfect. Spices are great. It may need just a little bit more salt, but I might just put a couple of drops. I put Soleil salt, all that liquid salt. I fill these bottles up so I can add it in drops at a time. You talk about cool. Okay, we're just about there. All right, so you get the idea of that. So it's got this little plug. To me, this is a lot easier to use because I don't usually make a lot of these at a time. Instead of some big machine, this one I think is the XO brand. It works good, and it's just really quick to clean up, and it'll do carrots and just about anything, just so it fits in that circumference, whatever you want to do, really. I've got a mandolin too, but this is a lot easier to use than any of that. I mean, a food processor has blades, but I don't think it can make these. All right, so I'm close enough. You don't want to when you get close, you want to. It's got this little thing where you can keep going a little bit, but okay, that's done. Okay, so let me pause for a second. Okay, here's what the pastas sort of look like. It's just one small zucchini. That's plenty for one meal, one person. All right, so let me get the plate ready. Okay, I got it plated. I'm putting some freshly ground black pepper. I'm gonna put a little bit more salt. So I got a dropper. I'm gonna probably put about 3 droppers. The droppers aren't full, they're only about a little over halfway. So just on the hummus itself. Maybe a little bit more. This will allow you to fine tune the salt. All right, I think that's it. That's all I need. Now you can garnish this. I'll tell you what I will do, just to make it look a little bit neater, colorful. Just dusting it with a little bit of paprika. That'll be nice. All right, so that's what it looks like. Power meal. loaded with enzymes from the raw sprouts, plant protein, amino acids, minerals, and all of the antioxidants in the spices also. Let's try it. All right, oh gosh, I got some noodles. You can cut these noodles. Let's see, I got a little bit. Okay, here. That is amazing. Let's see what it looks like mixed up. I am going to add, it does need a little bit more salt. So I'll add a couple of dropperfuls of that. More of the sole. That's some minerals in that one. And then I'm going to add just a few drops of apple cider vinegar. Straight on, maybe one more. Okay, that should be perfect. Already is perfect, but still. Okay. An amazing recipe. This is one I would highly recommend that you try. Not necessarily just the zucchini pasta. I'm just showing you what you can do with some of this hummus. Now you can take some of this hummus, thin it out. You can add some of the hummus as it is, as a base in a wrap. There's pretty much unlimited things you can do with the sprouts and with the hummus. An awesome thing sprouts are for the raw food diet. Even though they are high in protein and maybe on the acidic scale, they're carb neutral and they're prebiotic, meaning these sprouts are awesome food for the good bacteria in your gut. Awesome, some of the best, because it's loaded with fiber, they're alive, and they have those sugars, those complex sugars that the good bacteria like, and the fiber. It's just, this is like real good food to help rebuild your gut. Now, if you're detoxing, it's all fruit. That's the best. But if you're having cravings on the raw food diet, like I've been raw almost 4 years now, and if you have cravings, this is something you can make not on a regular basis, but every now and then to just get that really good savory type of gourmet raw. So this is considered the raw hummus, the way I made it. It's very nutritional. It has no nuts. It just has the tahini butter, which is the sesame seed butter. But it's good. It's really good. And it doesn't have, it's not, even though it's gourmet raw, it doesn't have a lot of nuts, and it doesn't have any added sugar in it at all. I could have added a splash of honey. That would have probably set it off the charts. But see, that's what it looks like, good mixed up. Give this a try. I got to cut this short because I'm ready to eat. Until next time, take care and try this recipe. Bye for now. There was one more thing that I forgot to add. These are the coconut aminos. This would give it a subtle, slight sweetness and a more complexity of flavors. It's sort of like a mild soy sauce flavor, but with the coconut overtones. Awesome product. I've sort of told you about this in prior videos. So I would have added about a tablespoon of this. It would have just added that little sweetness. The butternut squash didn't give it quite the sweetness I thought it would. Another thing you could add is a tablespoon of that, the bee pollen. That would have been a nice mineral addition also. So these two things, actually, I realized that these are two of the things that I added to the first batch I made. So I just wanted to share that. I'll interject this in when I'm editing.